4 out of 10, pretty below average. I don't know, I rate things in a very peculiar way. At least I feel it's peculiar. To me, 0 is the lowest you can go. Terrible, no redeeming qualities, it sucked. 5 is average. 5 isn't a bad thing, it's okay to be average. Most books are a good 5. That's the standard. You should be aiming for a 5. Well, you shouldn't be aiming for a 5. You should be aiming for a 10. Perfect. Nothing dragging it down. I don't know if a 0 book exists. I don't know if a 10 book exists. There are some 8s and 9s out there. Most books are a 5. Or 4, 5, or a 6. This book just happens to be a 4. I should say though, my opinion is subjective. These are the personal feelings that I feel when I've read this book. If you disagree, cool, whatever. Insult my intelligence in the comments. This is the internet. Let's both move on with our day. Tea break. So this book was fucking disappointing, and after reading it, I came away feeling pretty meh. It's not that I hated it. It just didn't cause that release of dopamine that usually comes with a finished book. I do think, though, as a standalone, Black Templars vs. Emperor's Children, it's just fine. A low 5, it's acceptable. I could feasibly recommend this book. There are things that I liked, things that I didn't like, and there are things that just kind of frustrate me. I get upset, pouty lip, crossed arms, the whole 9 yards. So the book, called Fulgrim, The Perfect Son, with Fulgrim on the cover, released after Fulgrim got a new model, isn't from his perspective, and he only appears in I forgot to write down what percentage of the book he appears in. I'm just gonna put it on the screen there. That percentage of the book is pretty low. Just why? Why? I wanted to see sexy Snake Man, not the random Emperor's Children swordsman or random Black Templar or that random ass militia lady. Yeah, I really didn't like that. Her story was fine. I'm just being a prick. This is what gives me the pouty lip and the crossed arms. Severe lack of sexy Snake Man. If I could just remove the parts with the militia lady and just replace it with Fulgrim's POV, I would have walked away happy. And before you say it, yeah, I wanted Lion Son of the Forest again. Sue me. My expectations were set so much higher. That's my fault, I guess. Okay. I'm done whining for once. Let's just talk about the book. Let's just go through each part by part. Okay. Is Black Templars vs. Emperor's Children on a backwater hive planet called Crucible, capital city, Citadel. It used to be corrupted by Slaanesh, and it still has a few cultists running around. Apparently the Order Hereticus was a little bit too busy this week, which, fair. Fulgrim calls up his sons, and he wants them to go fetch the planet for him, because it used to be blessed by Slaanesh, and he wants to save it from the tyranny of the Imperium. Conversely, the Black Templars and some original A-grade Cadians are there to defend the planet. We follow one Emperor's Children in particular named Tamaris Marmaduke, warlord of a small warband called the Perfecti. Tamaris wants nothing more than to be Daddy's favorite boy instead of, his bastard-ass, smelly, dumb-looking sibling Malvis the Sorcerer. They're introduced when Tamaris and the Perfecti are battling against the World Eaters, and it's honestly a pretty good scene that introduces our main character. Like the rest of the third, Tamaris seeks perfection in his chosen art of combat and swordplay. He refers to other Astartes, as both, heretical and loyalists, as brother because he believes them to be the same, with only superficial differences. But because of this, he also greatly pities them for wasting away their true potential. World Eaters, they're mindless berserker. They'll never understand the true art of combat. And loyalists, they're all just misbegotten members of the family who follow a dead and wrong god. There's also Venekar, the Perfecti's apothecary / butcher / drug plug. He makes sure that the little group is stocked up on high-grade combat stims. He's a surprise plot device that'll help us later, don't worry. Anywho, Malvis the sorcerer drops on the Perfecti to inform them Dad's calling a family gathering and they are invited. He then opens a hole in reality, not that kind of hole, don't. He opens a hole in reality and leaves without another word. The Black Templar are present because one of them, named Johannes, had a vision of him. He had a vision of him fighting against Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children's swordsman, Tamaris, at the side of Rolgul Dorn, specifically on the planet Crucible. Whenever a Black Templar has an Emperor-granted vision, he becomes the Emperor's champion, and he's allowed to use the cool sword and the armor that accompanies it by the model. So the Templars arrive in order to set up defenses against the oncoming Emperor's children. I don't hate this setup. Even by the Imperium standards, though, Crucible is a desolate little rock that to have a battle on. I don't know, and it's an excuse to add more L-shaped ruins, don't worry about it. I also do think it's strange that Black Templars, of all chapters, to have a vision with Doran and have to fortify a hive city for a long siege. It's just, man, I wish there was such a chapter of Rolgul Dorn's gene line. Maybe one that specialized in fortifying for sieges. I don't know. But in all reality though, the whole driving thing in the book is Fulgrim's champion proving himself to be better than the Emperor's champion. I kind of like this idea. I think it's a great way to kind of drive the plot forward when it does drive forward. So I give it a pass. I don't hold it against the book. Meanwhile, the Third Legion, the glorious Third Legion, meets on the new flagship, the Vexation, where we get to see the gorgeous, the radiant, the perfect Snake Man himself, Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children. There, he gives a rousing speech to his children about their glory, their pride, and their insistence to waste their talents on petty bullshit. Honestly, I get the same thing from my parents all the time. It's fine, guys. It's fine. He tells them of the planet Crucible and how he wants to reclaim it for the glory of himself and the Dark Prince. There they will hammer out their impurities and reforge the glorious Third. Yeah, because it's called Crucible. I love everything about this scene and Fulgrim, from Fulgrim's interjection, his speech, his whole evil, pompous attitude. I love it. If I could just get a quarter of the book of just this injected directly into my bloodstream, I'd have no complaints. I'm tapping my arm, by the way, perverts. I gotta cut that out. But we don't get that. Kinda sucks. I don't know. I wish there was a book just this for 200, 300 pages. Right after the speech, though, Tamaris gets summoned by Fulgrim personally. And we get a neat little conversation. Fulgrim, not really, but kinda names Tamaris as his champion. Again, has everything I wanted from a book with the Snake Man Fulgrim. Although for most of the book he isn't in his snake form. Which is fine. Yeah, it's fine. Normal Fulgrim is still a beautiful, beautiful person. Hey, maybe this is why people think I'm gay. Oh. Love it. Need more of it. Probably not gonna get it for another 20 years. Finally, we have the third main character perspective, who we get a lot of in this book. Random ass militia lady. She definitely has a name, but I really don't care about her. She's introduced at the start of the Emperor's Children attack when some cultists blow up a railway that her and her company were traveling on. She barely survives and manages to climb out of the rail car when the cultists in question find her and are about to fire upon her when the chapter ends. Dun dun dun. I thought she straight up died in this scene. She's just one-off character. The cultists are here. They want to kill people. Anyway, we get to see Johannes purge his way. By the way, Black Templars are already here. We get to see Johannes purge his way through the city and clean up all these dang cultists. Just as the Emperor intended. It's good fun to see a Space Marine tear through mortals like wet tissue paper. It's also a part where we get to see the Black Templar Castellan man the walls and repel the initial Emperor's Children strike while the Admech get the Void Shields up. Those dang cogboys. Is a good action-packed part of the book. We get to see Emperor's Children and Black Templars at each other's throats. Explosions, bolters, glorious melee combat, thunderbolts and lightning. Very, very frightening. Tamaris and the Perfecti, they're having a gay old time, shooting, killing Sons of Dorn with glee. And Tamaris kinda got shit on by the Castellan. Like, he almost dies in a one-on-one duel, melee duel. Something he spent thousands of years perfecting while on high grade combat stims. It's like, it's so strange. Especially since Venekar, he just gave him a new type of stim to play with. So weird. Oh well. He only really survives because the Castellan got blasted by a demon engine. There's a pretty humorous scene where Tamaris looks for the Castellan like he would for a beloved comrade or friend, because he didn't get to finish the fight properly. Like, I should clarify, I like Tamaris. I think he's a pretty neat character. I just feel like he didn't get his due for this book. And there's so many scenes that kind of prove this, to me at least. This one in particular, where he almost got totally wrecked by the Castellan and didn't even get to finish the fight properly. I feel for him. I really do feel for him. And finally, the battle ends with the Void Shields going up and a long, boring ass siege commencing. Up to this point, I was really enjoying the book. It had good action, characters were alright, Militia Lady had one chapter, and we got a cool moment with Fulgrim. It's after this, I think the book goes downhill a bit. Like, up till this point, it's like a 6, potentially a 7, but then we just fall back down to a 4, and we'll go over it. Okay, part 2. Okay, the book starts with Malvis and his little command center, Abandoned Factory, getting a message from Fulgrim's equerry, the Three. Imagine, like, that one character from Monty Python in the Holy Grail. Oh, it's right here. I'll pull it on the screen. You see, I can't believe I wrote that. You see, Daddy Snake wishes to come down and speak to Malvis over the severe lack of progress over the last several weeks of the siege warfare. By the way, we flashed forward several weeks. Besides a few small operations and some Black Templars poking their heads out to see what's going on, it's been just a slow, grinding war of attrition. And no one likes that. Well, except for those freaks over there. Obviously, Malvis accepts and Fulgrim appears right behind him and starts giving the sorcerer a total dressing down. He's pissed at the lack of progress, taunts him for no longer being his favorite, and tells him to get his ass in gear. Love the scene, love the conversation, love Fulgrim. I need more Fulgrim. You're gonna hear me say this a lot. Right after that, we switch back to the militia, who've been, raiding through civilian homes trying to find cultists. The Cadians are threatening to arrest the militia if they don't produce results soon, so they may have to start arresting civilians on the smallest suspicion if they don't meet an arrest quota. This book's getting a little more topical than I like. At least the militia feel guilty about this. Small aside, Google Docs keeps trying to correct Cadians to Canadians, and I think that's the funniest thing ever. Henceforth, all Cadian accents, when I read books, will have Canadian accents. I'm just making that declaration right here. Meanwhile, the Perfecti are taking down a Prometheum treatment plant. Void shields need fuel in order to function, so the best way to end the siege is to stop the Imperials from making the gosh darn fuel that done doing the void shielding. You know what I mean? Know what I mean, Vern? I didn't actually watch that much Ernest. I watched like 3 of the movies. They're okay. I think they're kind of funny. Ernest Saves Christmas isn't bad though. This raid in particular goes pretty much how you think it does. They go in, kill a bunch of mortals like the insects that they are. Venekar even gives Tamaris Venakar even gives Tamaris a new stim that's his greatest concoction to date. It allows Tamaris to see the world in slow motion, while allowing him to flow through battle like a god. When it becomes clear to the commissar that the battle is lost, he slaps a bomb on a big red barrel to blow up the factorium. Tamaris throws his sword to stop him from detonating the place, and it's really tense and heart-pounding moment of martial perfection. He fucking missed. He missed. How did you miss? You're in Astartes. He was 20 feet away. That's child's play, you fool. He misses because the combat stim gave him too much strength. Yeah, whatever. Skill issue. They don't die though, because one of the workers saws the commissar in half with the power tool before the detonation. She and the rest of the workers start to praise the Perfecti as their saviors. Also at about this time, Tamara starts hearing a strange song, so that only he can hear, and it's a demon. We know it's a demon. Let's move on. These cultists help the Emperor's children out by telling them about a water treatment plant which lies outside the Void Shields. These places help purify the natural water of Crucible, allowing the defenders to hold out for longer. You can only recycle the same reused water, let's say, so many times. So taking these plants out, that's a primary objective. You should go blow that shit up. The Perfecti decide to make this a stealth operation with the goal of taking out the facility. Things go awry when they have to kill the guards at the front, and the whole thing just turns into a battle. You know, pretty typical stealth operation if you play video games. The difference here is that instead of workers and militia, the area is fully guarded by Canadian troopers and Kasserkin. During all this, Johannes receives a report that some Emperor's children are attacking a water treatment facility. When he sees Tamaris' face on the screen, he immediately grabs his squad to go kill an heretic Astartes, specifically that bastard that's been appearing in his visions. He's like his dream enemy. The enemy of his dreams. Once again, we see Space Marines killing mortals like there ain't no tomorrow, right up until the Kasserkin appear. Now, we all know that certain Imperial Guard weapons, like a hotshot lasgun, can kill Space Marines. As far as I'm concerned, that's a fact. You know, those things, those shoot high-powered lasers. They can melt through ceramite, kill a Space Marine, whatever. I've seen it happen in other books. I think it's fine. You may disagree, but that's cool. This universe is totally fucked. However, it's pretty screwed that at least 3 or 4 of the Perfecti just get overwhelmed by sheer weight of bodies. I feel that's a little suspicious. I mean, tell me, one of the melee Space Marine armies, they just get overwhelmed by sheer weight of numbers. You know, I think this is why Chaos Undivided is better. Should have just sent some Khorne Berserkers at him. They would have taken him 10 minutes. Finally, after every Kasserkin is dead on the ground, they slap the Melta on the water tank so that their objective is complete. Only thing is that at that moment, Johannes and his squad appears. This should be the part where the two main characters can get a read on each other, size one another up, so they can have their ultimate battle later. Unfortunately, we don't really get that. We get Tamaris feeling wholly inadequate. By the way, they start fighting. We see Tamaris just feel wholly inadequate in the face of a Primaris Marine. He feels squat and wrongly proportioned. And I think the Primaris Marines look better overall. You know, just from like a model, thinking about the models, you know? Overall. But you know what? I kind of hated this scene. It feels wrong that an Emperor's children would feel inferior to anyone who wasn't Fulgrim or just another legionary. This felt wrong. This didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Although his feelings are entirely justified when Johannes almost fucking kills him in the first duel. The fight didn't even feel close. If the Melta hadn't gotten off and flooded them through the sewers, then Tamaris would have died. And I know this for a fact. I wholly think this. Tamaris would have gotten totally dunked on. Reading it, it's just like, it's not even close. Johannes feels faster, he feels stronger, he has better weaponry. What does Tamaris have? Drugs. The power of drugs. And it's not enough. Don't do drugs, kids. Do faith. In the Emperor's Children book. God. So now, Fulgrim is calling a meeting of his top staff in a cave. It's about a day's journey from the action. Why wasn't it on his flagship? Dunno. Why not have it in Malvis's command bunker? Dunno. Why can't it have been an email? In the grim darkness of the far future? Dunno. Malvis gets the message earlier than Tamaris, so at the suggestion of Fulgrim's equerry, the Monty Python dude, he sets up, just a few little surprises for his fellow legionaries. Tamaris and his perfecti take the Rhino up to the meeting room, where he seems to be kind of spacing out a bit, not in the cool, drug-induced way, in the way that he's feeling like small and weak, and not like an Astartes. I don't blame him. He's just becoming like not as powerful feeling or cool feeling just as the book has continued. This part being no exception. Space Marine feeling small and weak. That's especially this kind of Space Marine. I don't like it. I don't like it. He snaps out of it when Apothecary Venikar gets his attention because the Rhino stopped moving. Apparently he can't do sandy slopes, and the meeting takes place at the top of a mountain. They need to start hoofing it. On the way, they get attacked by demons summoned by Malvis, and Tamaris once again starts spacing out, till Venikar shoots him up with some weird drug so that he can run in and just kill the damn things. 2 more Perfecti die, 2 more remain. Tamaris decides to bring it up this treachery to Fulgrim with the same gusto of asking who took the sandwich from the break room fridge. That's such a shit trench joke, but it's staying in. Meeting room itself is in a purple crystalline cave where Fulgrim is having a ball with a bunch of cultists, Emperor's Children, and demons, and there's also a harp made of a human living being in the corner being played by a demon. By the model. Now, this scene has no problems whatsoever, because Fulgrim, he's perfect and pompous as always. Tamaris enters the chamber by blowing the door open with a bolt, fucking prima donna that he is, and accuses Malvis of treachery to Fulgrim, and even brings proof of it occurring. Fulgrim, so sick and tired of their bickering and lack of progress in the siege, he decides that the best way to handle this dispute is to turn the lights off and turn the ball into a free-for-all slaughter. He also turns into his full demon form in order to truly accentuate his displeasure. By the model. In case you are wondering though, Militia found a lead on cultist activity and they go into an abandoned warehouse, yada yada. Her and her subordinate find a shrine dedicated to something or other. Might be Fulgrim, might just be normal. Saneshi Shrine. It's heresy. It's heresy either way. The subordinate of the militia lady reveals that, aha, he's working with the cultists. And he tries to convince her to join them so they can escape the city and wait the siege out. Not just him, her, and like a bunch of civilians. She keeps him talking until backup arrives and they arrest him. I'm not gonna lie, I thought this part was pretty good. He makes a lot of convincing arguments, and I would have folded. Militia Lady was also about to fold, but more so because of some demon perfume corruption that was about to take hold. But alas, She was so loyal and faithful to the Imperium, she decided not to join the cultists. This gets annoying sometimes. I read a lot of 40k books. This whole so faithful in the Imperium of man and the goodness of the Emperor. Ugh, whatever. Get over yourself. So yeah, right after that, we get to see Tamaris and his Perfecti talking in some location. It's not elaborated where. It's discussing their next course of action. Basically, talking about some big decision Tam has made that Venekar is disagreeing with. English is hard. Vin's advice goes unheard because the next scene has Johannes watching the vid feed of Tamaris holding up the Castellan's head, challenging him to a duel. See? Prima donna. Stepping out of the wall, Johannes approaches Tamaris so they can have their big duel to the death. Emperor's Children Army and even Fulgrim himself have come all the way out to watch the festivities so they can finally decide who has the greater champion. On this corner, we have Tamaris of the Perfecti, son of Fulgrim the Phoenician, who spent thousands of years perfecting his craft. He has some fancy combat drugs made by his second-in-command and closest brother, Venekar, the apothecary. And in this corner, we have Johannes Berengar, Emperor's champion, with the armor of the Emperor's champion and the black sword, with his unwavering faith in the Emperor. And the fight isn't bad. You know, Tamaris seems to be having trouble at the start. He's not completely outmatched. Johannes is just a big, strong motherfucker. I think that they were pretty even, all things considered. But Tamaris turns his combat drugs anyway, which does give him a decent boost. He would have won. Honestly, he would have won, I think, if he didn't fuck around and play with his food. And if the come down didn't lead to him getting knocked out in his ass and run through with the black sword. And yeah, I know, there's still like a decent chunk of the book left. But like, I think it sucks. I think he went out kind of like a bitch. That's my opinion. No, actually, this fight was fine. It's the later fight that I hate more. We'll get to that in a moment. Battle ends. Fulgrim's pretty disappointed in his son, and the Emperor's Children Army charges the Black Templars in a mad dash to kill the Emperor's champion. Johannes and a contingent of Templars run back to safety while killing cultists, demons, and marines. He even manages to kill a venom caller, but he loses his hand and the black sword in the process. So I guess both sides take a tiny L here. Just a little L on one side in particular. Meanwhile, the last Perfecti, Nathir, and Venekar drag Tamaris away to a sewage river from earlier, where it is revealed that they betrayed him. Venekar has been slowly poisoning him during the whole campaign, which is why Tamaris fucking sucks. Venekar has been working for the sorcerer Malvis the entire time, gathering their gene seed for a ritual. Venekar fucks up when trying to finish Tamaris off, allowing him to escape into the sewage river. Man, for a warband called the Perfecti, these guys kinda suck. Back to Malvis, who's pretty peeved that Venekar wasn't able to get Tamaris' gene seed. Apparently, the ritual requires the last progeny to be from an act of betrayal. In response to this, Venekar, ever the practical man, grabs the last Perfecti standing next to him, injects him with a paralytic, and cuts the progeny gland out while he's still alive, and says, "There, will this do?" I thought this thing was pretty funny. He just grabs the man next to him, rips his balls out, and says, "Here." Not his balls, but you know what I mean. Same diff. Yeah, I know, lore heads are gonna get me like, whatever. It's funny. Laugh a little, why don't ya? Meanwhile, Tamaris washes up on the shore of the sewage river where he's found by those cultists from earlier who used some kind of ritual to bring him back to. I'm expositing to you. Cultists revive him. A demon takes notice of him and says, "Ah, I will give you power, but in return you have to do one little thing for me. Kill and eat the cultists." Which he does. I shit you not, he does do that. Finally, some grotesque imagery in my 40k book. Love it. Anyway, during this Malvis, he does the ritual. He summons a demon to help him get inside the shields, but not the rest of the army because it doesn't serve the demon's interests for some reason. You know, taking an entire planet, possibly turning it into a demon world for Slaanesh isn't in the demon of Slaanesh's interest. I don't get it. But then again, demons aren't meant to be understood, which fair. The ritual scene itself is pretty good. It has like this really great horror theme, makes it real disturbing. He has to eat like each individual gene seed, so we get to find out what gene seed tastes like. Gross. And also like when some of the cultists, when they were chanting the spell, the words being spoken were too sharp for their mortal tongues, so they started bleeding from their mouths. I like this ritual. Yeah, I rate it 6 out of 6. That demon needs to lower his standards. Back to Johannes, who's blacked out after killing the Venom Crawler, has another dream vision, this time with Fulgrim, speaks to him, promising him more gifts and glory than the Emperor ever could. Johannes, in his vision, looks down to see his lost hand regrown into a mutated tentacle abomination, and he wakes up in the Apothecarian uncorrupted. Lame. I like and hate this scene. I think Johannes being corrupted by Fulgrim would have been a better twist ending than what we got. Maybe that's what's supposed to happen. GW Septon said no, we can't have the Emperor's champion be corrupted. That's just speculation on my part, you know. I just hate being teased with the idea. And now, a word from the militia lady, who after imprisoning one of her traitor subordinates, is manning the inner wall of the governor's palace in the case civilians try to get in. There's a group gather outside, you know, for prayer, you know, little prayer, maybe things will go right. And then some people start voicing discontent with their situation. And then a militia member tries to cool things down and asks people not to escalate the situation. And then Acadian walks in and escalates the situation by shooting a warning shot above their heads and telling them to piss off with the threat of lethal force. Then, one of the civilians tosses a grenade at the gate, killed herself and everyone around her, and didn't even hurt any of the militia or the Acadians, because they were up on top of the wall. Nice one, dude! But hey, same thing happens to me when I play Helldivers. Oops, I just killed 30 civilians. My bad, guys. I slipped. Anyway, Acadian calls in backup to take care of any survivors, much to the militia lady's displeasure. When he gets the order for, you know, the militia to arm any able-bodied civilians to go out and man the walls. It is now at this point that the militia lady decides that the siege, these fucking Acadians, and everything else is bullshit. And she goes to get her traitor subordinate from prison so they can grab a bunch of civilians, escape, and wait the rest of the siege out. Took her long enough, I guess. Honestly, good for Talda Secundar, that's her name by the way, for finally getting the hint that the Acadians and the Templars really don't give a flying fuck about her planet or her people. Good for her that she decides to grab as many civilians as possible to escape the slaughter at the last goddamn moment. Not in the sewers, when the opportunity was offered to her on a silver platter with the addition of possible chaos corruption. Good for her. And you know what? I really like this scene on second reading. I like this scene, this moment of realization, where she realized that, Templars and Cadians don't care about the people. They just want to send them all into an unwinnable slaughter for the glory of the Emperor. They don't care about the civilians. But it's a little too late to help anyone, and to just get out of the way. Her and the traitor, they go out free. They go into the underground, and surprise, surprise, he actually takes her to the shield generator to try and blow it up. There was no way out. He lied. Who would have thunk? They blow it up. The shield goes down because of them. I guess her inclusion wasn't a complete waste, I guess. I don't know, I think... I liked her story. The second time I read it, I actually didn't fully hate Tal Sekunder's story. I thought it was pretty alright, especially this last gotcha moment of, man, these guys kind of suck. I think I'm gonna turn against them. I like that. I liked seeing I won't say corruption, because she didn't really get corrupted by chaos. I like seeing her realization. I liked it. It was a good little arc. And then she blows herself up. Oh well. Guess back to the Space Marines. Tamaris, now he's in symbiosis with the demon. Kind of like a word bearer style symbiosis with the demon. He's climbing walls like a fucked up Spider-Man, and he kind of just manages to slip through the void shields before they fall. He goes on a killing spree through the Cadian defenders on his way to just finally have his last fight with Johannes. Shields go down, allowing the Emperor's children to finally invade the city. I forgot to mention that Malvis, he enters through first, summons some demon nets and stuff to start wreaking havoc. Totally pointless though, because the shields go down anyway. And Tamaris, first, when the shields go down, finds Venekar, murders him. Bit of a shame, because I was just starting to like Ven. Then, literally right after that, Johannes finds Malvis by following the light of the Emperor, and begins to have a fight with the sorcerer, using a borrowed power sword and an augmetic hand. It's a pretty decent fight. Looks like Malvis is gonna win, when Tamaris runs in, stabs the sorcerer in the back, and just killing his rival brother once and for all. Pretty bitch move, but whatever. Now, finally, we get to see the duel between Marduk, Tamaris, and Johannes Berengar. The ultimate battle to decide the fate of Crucible, and I'm just yanking your chain. Duel goes exactly how the last two have gone. They fight. It seems pretty even. Tamaris gets knocked on his ass, and it looks like he's gonna lose. He's in symbiosis with the demon. He's not being, subtly paralyzed and poisoned by combat drugs. Why does he keep getting knocked on his ass? Why can't he get a win? In the Emperor's Children book. This is bullshit. I think this is bullshit. Fuck you, GW. Anyway, Fulgrim, he walks in, and the rest of the Legion, they arrive, and they all charge Johannes at once. He makes his last stand when suddenly Tamaris stabs him in the back like the bitch that he is. The bitch that he has become. And just cuts his head off. I hate this duel. I hate this entire scene. This part just really fucking sucks. So, but the only way that the Emperor's champion can lose if he gets overrun and then stabbed in the back. No honor duel. No seeing Tamaris getting a fucking win. Nothing. It's just so disappointing. This is the part that really disappointed me. I'm gonna be honest with you. He just never gets a decent win throughout the book. Even at the beginning, the fight with the World Eaters, he almost gets his hand crushed by their, sergeant or whatever. Malvis saves his ass. He doesn't get a single win in the book. Gah. Anyway, the long, bloody siege is over. Crucible is now free from the Imperium's tyranny. Fulgrim claims the planet and presents his new champion, his perfect son, Tamaris, to the people of Crucible. Standing there, resplendent in victory, his rival's corrupted weapon in his hand, his enemies and traitors dead, Tamaris realizes the folly of trying to win Fulgrim's favor. One day, Fulgrim will just toss him aside like he did Malvis for a different champion. And that champion will be tossed aside as well, and so on, and so on, and so on. He's just one of many in an unending line of favored sons. He's nothing. He's just the flavor of the week. I like this realization by Tamaris. I think it just shows just how Fulgrim has come to see his sons. Just little toy soldiers, little playthings to enact his will. He doesn't care about his champion. He just sees like a shiny new toy to go do his dirty work. This is like the last 2 pages of the book, and it's probably like one of my favorite parts, which is a damn shame. Anyway, that's my favorite part of the book. Least favorite part, the final duel between Johannes and Tamaris. Disappointing. All 3 duels suck. All 3 of those fights are just my least favorite parts. Get rid of them. I don't like them. That's what, those 3 parts is what kind of makes the book a 4 out of 10 for me. They were just not fun to read. And besides that, I got the book to see Fulgrim. He's on the cover. Look at him. He's on the cover, man. But we just got so little of him. And I will say this though, the parts where we got him, I liked it. I liked those parts. They were really good. Just give me more of it, please. Pretty please? Maybe the next Chaos Primarch will get something better. I know that Angron the Red Angel had some similar problems. But, then again, what kind of perspective and inner thoughts do you think Angron has nowadays? And as far as Tamaris goes, he deserves so much better than what he got. He had some cool moments but during the book he just felt super weak. I wish he could have been done better. I wish he would got his due, but he didn't, and it sucked. I like his whole attitude and how he views other Space Marines. I like it. And then Johannes the Black Templar, I don't really care about him. He's just all zealous rage, not much flavor. At least not a flavor that I enjoy personally. I like him best near the end when he was having like a little bit of a crisis after losing the Black Sword. Also like, the dream where he speaks directly to Fulgrim. Overall, I thought this Black Templar in particular was pretty meh. I don't know, maybe I need to read more Black Templar lore. And then Militia Lady Talith was fine. Reading through it again, I've come to terms with the fact that her story was pretty good. I didn't hate it completely. But once again, overall, 4 out of 10, pretty disappointing, but there were small parts that I enjoyed.